Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be picking up where we left off in Citizen Sleeper. It's been a minute, I think it's been about 2 months, but they've just released the final story DLC for the game. There's 3 chapters. We played the first 2 of those at the end of, where we left off in the playthrough last time, and we're going to pick up with the rest now. So I'm going to have to remind myself a little bit of our status. I've obviously used all the dice for today, and if I click on the climbing briar, we're waiting for 2 cycles so that Peak can compile data on the flux to be presented to Sol or Helen. You get the sense they are dreading the choice. So we've got a couple of cycles to, well, it'll be 1 cycle really after the time I've rested, because I've run out of I could rest here. Maybe I'll rest here. Pretty good in terms of our I can't even remember what it's called. Our stability thing, the yellow bar. We're pretty good on that. Our energy is okay. It'll obviously drop down when we rest. But there's not a lot I can do about it here, so oh, it's our condition, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I could repair it with a scrap. I'm gonna save my scrap. We've still got 3 stabilizer pills. I think I was letting it drop down to about here, then using it. So we've got a few cycles. We've also got about 5 cycles, I think, until the Sidereal Horizon, the big ship that we helped build, leaves. But I don't know if we're going to be doing that ending. So we'll just proceed with the story DLC and see where it takes us. So I'm hoping if we go up here and have a look at this. Yeah, Peak's halfway through, so we've got a cycle to play with, really. We're going to need energy. What happens if we go here? I don't think we don't need to work, really. Am I growing any mushrooms right now? I don't think I am. I've got 6 Girolles. Maybe we'll just take a little peek at the rest of the station, just see where things are at. We'll get some food. We'll probably go to Memphis. We'll give him some money. We got quite. Oh yeah, we got quite a lot of money. Yeah, energy's looking good. Stuff in the docks. Scrap freighter. What's going on here? I could put some money in, I suppose. See what we get out. Might be something interesting. We actually did. We got a ship mine fragment, funnily enough. Interesting. Don't think there's anything interesting going on at the Havenage's office. We can have a look at the Bantian, which is what we helped set up. We could cook Girolle caps. We probably get food out of that, so I'm pretty. Our energy's all right. Don't need the money. Average offices, Celis servers. What's on here? Seems like we're done with that. And that's the ship. We'll go up the eye again. Have a little look. Yeah, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cycles left now for the Sidereal Horizon. Kisho capsules. Okay, we could stay there. Don't know why we would. Got the ambergris. Still an option to leave with them. Yeah. Okay, I don't really know what to do. It's tempting just to rest for another cycle. Honestly, we don't need to do that much, really. Don't need a ship mind. Maybe I'll go and do some mushroom farming. So I need some spores. We can put this in. That's an automatic pass, isn't it? More or less. Got one. Yeah, we'll do more. We'll just grow our own. Is 3 enough? I can't remember how many we need to plant. Oh, we actually picked some. Okay. Didn't realise. Let's do that. 2 random rare mushrooms. We got club heads and girole caps. Oh no, we got giroles, and it's the Matsutake. We could do that again. I think we might have got 1 Matsutake and a girole. Not quite sure. Let's re-roll that one. We've got a 6. Okay, well let's get some good ones. More club heads, more Matsutake. That's fine. If I leave and come back, can I plant more? Yes. There we go. So, I think we'll risk to go. Might as well do it here for free. We don't really need to do that. I guess I could put a scrap in just to get our conditions staying high. When we come back, we can get on with the story DLC. Peak. I think they were Australian, weren't they? Sleeper! Peak is waiting for you in the cuddle. It's Tom! Peak looks pale and dishevelled with heavy marks under their eyes and strands of hair sticking to their face. For what? Peak smiles weakly. Nice try, but we can't dodge this. Peak holds up a thumbnail-sized drive. All the data I've compiled on the flux event, the effects of the wave and the structures that hide within it is on here. You look at the tiny drive. A casket of dark secrets. I've just seen our roll. Look at that. 4 6s and a 4. I've annotated it to the best of my ability. Anyone should be able to understand the threat, the potential in this. Peak sighs. It makes for grim reading. Without intervention, the Eye will suffer a cascading collapse of systems, just like the colonies of Ember's moons. What sort of intervention? Peak grimaces. That I'm still working on. Peak looks at the drive. This shadow in the flux, this protocol, it's so hard to pin down. It adapts to any countermeasure I've tried to deploy. It's like trying to hold water in a cage. It slips straight through. There has to be a way. Peak closes their hand around the drive. We need help, Sleeper. This is about everyone on the station. They sigh. We have to set up a meeting to tell someone who can do something about this. So Sol is the captain of the refugee ship. And Helen's kind of like the local government. So I guess maybe her. Perhaps. Peak pauses. If anyone can protect the Eye, it's Havenage, but their internal politics will make it hard for them to act. Will they even listen to us? Or perhaps, Peak adds thoughtfully, we've been thinking about this all wrong. Peak's eyes glint. Why make a choice when we can tell both of them? Why pick a side when the only side in this entire thing is the one we all need to take? Peak speaks as they think, their words barely keeping pace with their thoughts. We need to resist this together, or we will fail. We need everyone on board, Sleeper. Peak smiles. That's the only way. We send data to both. You're right. I would have suggested that if it would have been an option. Peak smiles. I'm glad you see it too. They look away. Another flux event is coming, I'm sure of it. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure we can survive without help. Peak opens their hand and holds the drive out for you to take. You need to do this, Sleeper. I can't. You know Sol, you know Helen. They trust you. To them, I'm just another spacer, but you're part of this place. Hearing someone else say it hits you hard. You are a part of the Eye. Peak is right, but right now that feels more like a weakness than a strength. I've set up a data relay at the cordon. It's neutral ground. Take the data and send it out to Havenage and the flotilla. Once they receive it, they'll come. We can be sure of that. You'll meet them there and take them through it all. No one could do a better job. They tuck a strand of hair behind their ear. Come with me. Peak pauses. I can't. It would only draw suspicion on you. Havenage want nothing to do with us, and Sol is paranoid at best. Peak tentatively puts a hand on your shoulder. Thank you, Sleeper. I know this is hard, but we have to move forward. We can't keep this to ourselves anymore. They step back, looking thin and pale in the harsh station light. Come talk to me once it's done. And they slip away into the Eye. They want us to go up to the cordon, don't they? So this would be this. Let's go in and take a look, I guess. Warning, final episode. Once you send the data, episode Purge and the final series of events in the Eye will begin. After this point, you will not be able to return to complete other drives or find other endings. Well, this is the ending we're going for then. Let's do it. That's why we're here. Where's my flux data? Oh, it's probably here, isn't it? Let's do it. See what happens. With the data sent, the only thing to do is wait. As you do, you imagine Helene receiving the data, perhaps in the middle of some Havenage Council meeting. You think of her trembling hands as she slips out of the room to read it. Her reaction, you can't predict. You imagine Sol, too, one of his crew finding him in some corner of the Pilgrim Seed, overseeing the modifications that will turn it into an ark. Those sharp eyes scanning the data, looking for a way to proceed. The wait draws out, and to pass the time, you watch the activity beyond the edge of the Eye. The scrap shuttles pulling components from the now abandoned cordon, and the supply skiffs making runs between the flotilla ships. It isn't long before you hear the chirping of one of Helene's now familiar drones approaching the viewing platform, and then Helene herself strides into the room. I can't remember her voice. As I said, it's been a while, so we'll just go fairly plain on it, I think. Where did you get this, Sleeper? Helene holds up a slate scrolling with streams of flux data as she enters. I need to know your source. Hello to you too. You didn't bring me here for a reunion, I assume? Helene smiles a thin smile. Then you'll forgive me for skipping the pleasantries. She pauses and pushes her hair back out of her face. This is a lot to take in. A shadow protocol inside the flux? The system's CAN channel starting up? A total collapse of the Eye? She rubs her forehead. If I bring this to the council, they'll... She turns away. They'll believe you. She laughs. Do you know what has been happening within Havenage, Sleeper? She looks away out at the flotilla. Since the refugee ship started arriving, things have changed. It's chaos. No one can settle on a single issue. There's division at every vote. But in the division, only one group prospers, the hardliners. Because as each councillor gets tired of the arguments, gets tired of compromise, they become more attracted to the easy answers. The flotilla is to blame. The refugees are opportunists. The Eye must be defended. She shakes her head. And now you're telling me they brought something to the Eye that will cause its collapse. The Eye, they didn't bring it. It doesn't matter, Sleeper. That is all the councillors will hear. She closes her eyes, a hand to her temple. Many of them already presume that the refugees are somehow to blame.
Did someone say refugees?
Sol clanks into the docking bay, grinning at the situation.
Speak of the devil and, well, here I am.
His suit hisses as he settles on his cane. Helene glances between the two of you, uncertain if she has been drawn into some elaborate plan. She holds out a hand... Sol holds out a hand to her.
Sol,
he nods.
I believe we've spoken remotely while the cordon was still up.
I sent both of you the data. Sol laughs.
Well, thank you.
He raises an eyebrow.
Evidence of our mutual, inevitable destruction is not much of an olive branch, but I'll take it.
I'm not Havenage. Helen blurts out and then corrects herself. What I mean to say is that no one person represents Havenage. That's the idea. I did not support the cordon, and I did not support your quarantine. Sol nods.
Well then.
He glances at you.
Anyone mind if I get myself up to speed here?
He pauses, but you get the feeling he isn't expecting an answer.
1. The flux events, the very same destabilizing waves that collapsed the colonies on the moons of Ember, have reached the station.
He holds up a stubby finger.
2. According to data Sleeper provided, these events are acting as a cover for some kind of intrusive protocol which is causing the real damage.
A second finger joins the first.
3. This shadow protocol will do the very same thing it did to Ember's song, step, and hearth, and quickly. In short, it'll shut down everything keeping this place alive.
A third finger pops up.
4. And this is my favorite. We have no idea who or what is doing this, or why.
Sol's final finger joins the other 3.
Is that about the total of it all?
There's also another flux event coming.
Of course there is.
Sol smiles thinly. Sounds... Helen pauses, searching for words. Intimidating. She turns to Sol. Did you manage to put up any kind of resistance on Ember's hearth? Sol shakes his head.
That's why we're here. The Pilgrim Seed was the biggest ship to make it out unscathed.
He pauses.
I suppose we didn't have this data. We didn't know what was eating up the systems. We all thought it was the flux.
Helen looks at you. And I imagine you, Sleeper, and whoever helped you uncover this, might be able to figure out a countermeasure? I don't know. Helen glances away. That's okay. We can try.
If you'll forgive me,
Sol cuts in.
Part of why I was able to save as many as I could on Ember's hearth was that I gave up hope early.
Sol shifts his weight, his suit hissing.
There were endless strategy meets, system reboots, tests and trials. But I just got on with working on the Pilgrim Seed, with getting people on board. So when the second and the third and the rest of the flux events hit, we were ready to go. So if I can offer you some advice, miss not Havenage. It is to give up on that line of thought you have, that hope, and to start the evacuation now. Right this cycle.
Sol looks out of the observation deck towards the Pilgrim Seed.
I've already started the process of converting the remaining volume of the Pilgrim Seed for human habitation. With Havanage's resources, I dare say we could finish the job with time to spare.
He scratches at his beard.
I know it's hard and I know it's sudden, but you have to give up hope. We have to run. There will be no heroes here, just those that keep living and those that don't.
Helen listens in silence, making calculations. She looks out at the bulk of the Pilgrim Seed, which, despite all its vastness, is dwarfed by the eye as a whole. Something flickers in her eyes. She opens her mouth to speak. She stops, frozen. Let me think. Helen rubs her temple. I need a moment. Helen paces, and as you watch her, you realize how young she is, and how lost she is in the systems and protocols she has to navigate. You can almost see the strings and ties that bind her, glinting like webs in the wide space of the observation platform. Well, it's not called the Purge for nothing. We purge the Shadow Protocol. Helen stops pacing. But with what resources? The data you sent me, this thing is a shadow. Uncontrollable, untraceable. Perhaps with the full contingent of the Havenage Systems Department, but that would require hundreds of work orders to be overlooked. Maintenance schedules abandoned. She looks away. Getting that through the council. Would that even be possible? She glances at Sol, who is patiently watching, patiently listening. We do it without them. Impossible. Helen looks at the slate again. I will take this to the council, force them to listen, force them to act. You both jump as someone loudly clears their throat nearby. Your eyes jump to the dark entryway that Helen emerged from just minutes ago. This is Kemp. This is a new character.
What a cozy little meeting this is.
A man steps from the shadows, dressed in the same style of Havenage overalls as Helen.
And I must say, there's some very incendiary rhetoric you're using, Councillor Helen.
You glance at Helen and her face drops immediately. Kemp! She curses under her breath. Sol shifts his weight on his cane, but otherwise remains still. like a casual observer.
Plotting against Havenage with an interloper.
He gestures at Sol.
Everyone will be so disappointed.
Kemp smiles, a bright smile.
Some of the councillors had such high hopes for our youngest member.
His smile drops.
I, of course, never let novelty distract from the importance of experience.
Helene stares daggers at Kemp. Enough of this petty shit, Kemp. You need to see this. She holds out her slate with an outstretched arm. The games are over. No more point scoring. No more lobbying. You and your hardliners need to stop. This is something real. Kemp calmly takes the slate and prods the screen, scrolling through the flux data. His face betrays nothing, but you see some complex calculation flickering in his sharp eyes. He lowers the slate slowly and smiles at Helene.
And what do you think this shows?
Helene frowns. Don't play games. You can read. The flux is a carrier signal for some shadow protocol, most likely corporate in nature. Maybe it's Solheim re-emerging to claim their station. Maybe it's a takeover. But either way, the station is under threat.
Well, you're right about that. The rest? Conjecture.
Kemp rubs their chin. Oh, it's a there. He's a there. They're a there, I should say.
What we have is a virus in our systems which emerged precisely when the flotilla arrived. In fact, it times in perfectly with the mysterious event that freed them. So what I see is a hostile cyber warfare attack, instigated by dissidents that fled Ember's moons after committing terrorist attacks on their own soil.
Kemp's face darkens.
That is the order of the facts. Nothing more, nothing less. Facts I'll be happy to present to the Council.
Kemp tightens his grip on the slate. Helene laughs. You think that's the only copy of that data, you sanctimonious shit?
No, I don't. Kemp smiles. But who do you think they will listen to, Helene? Especially after I tell everyone about this little clandestine meeting. You couldn't win power by Havenage's systems, by our laws, so you resort to this.
Kemp shakes his head.
The law is with me. It's as simple as that.
He gestures, and out of the shadows, 2 Havenage security officers appear.
No need for that.
Sol suddenly speaks up. His silence had meant Kemp had stopped paying attention to him, but now you notice he has backup of his own. A group of his crew stand at the edges of the room. They're carrying long, boxy guns. You've never seen anything like them on the eye. Glossy XPR logos glint along their barrels. These are Esh's guns. But they smuggle... in one of the earlier episodes, they smuggled some guns aboard his ship, didn't they? Kemp freezes and the officers hesitate, holding back in the doorway.
Be careful there, outsider, he stutters. Kill me and Havenage will never forget.
Sol waves a hand at him.
No one's killing anyone, so let's calm down.
Sol scratches his beard.
But I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Helene glances at him, and he gives her a gentle nod.
And you'll leave your colleague here with me.
He raises an eyebrow.
We haven't finished our conversation.
Kemp laughs and shakes his head.
You're finished, Helene. The Council will never allow you back after this.
Then he turns and walks out of the observation deck, taking his officers with him. You all pause to catch your breath. Helene looks ready to collapse. Sol flexes inside his suit, nodding at his crew to check that Kemp has fully retreated. He wrenches part of his suit back into place, grimacing.
Your friends leave a lot to be desired.
He shoots a glance at Helene.
Seems like support for the evacuation might be a hard ask.
Helene doesn't respond. She stares out at the pilgrim seed once more, trying to process what's in front of her. She sighs and turns back to you both. I won't call for an evacuation. She looks at Sol. Maybe that's a fatal mistake, but I can't do it. I understand. But... She pauses. I won't block it either. If people want to leave, Havenage will let them. That is what I will propose to the Council. She sighs. If they'll let me speak. You have to do more. Easier said than done, Sleeper, she sighs. She nods at you and Sol and turns to leave. Sol is quiet. He scratches at his beard.
Good luck,
he offers to the departing Helene. But she does not respond. He leans on his cane.
I'll be honest with you, Sleeper. None of this changes anything for me. The Pilgrim Seed will be going in a handful of cycles, whether Havenage wants it or not.
How long? Sol grimaces.
Honestly, as soon as we're ready. I'm not eager to run down the clock to the last cycle.
He puts a hand on your shoulder.
There's a berth for you and for anyone you can gather, Sleeper. That much I owe you.
And Helene?
I wouldn't hold out much hope of her coming around, Sleeper. She's too tied up in all of this. It won't let her leave even if she wants to.
He eyes you.
Hell, I'd say the same about you, but you have a habit of proving me wrong. My crew will take me from here, don't you worry.
Sol straightens up.
Oh, and thank you, Sleeper, for sending the data. I appreciate the extra info, and I'll see if it can help us shore up the Pilgrim Seed against any future flux events. If we had you back on Ember's hearth...
He pauses, suddenly losing his appetite for discussing the past. He sighs.
Of course, we're going to need all the help we can get. If you can spare some time, come to the Pilgrim's Seed, help me get it ready. Bring others. There's a future to be earned here, cycle by cycle. We'll be leaving as soon as we're able. If you want to help us get there fast and well, you'd be welcome.
He meets your eye. Sol grimaces.
Well,
he pauses,
just don't keep me waiting.
And he limps off towards his waiting crew. You pause for a moment to let your thoughts catch up. Peak will want to hear all about this. They should be your first port of call. So we've got a new drive. Let's examine this. So we're not going to do this escape on the Sidereal anymore, we know that much. But evacuate the eye. The flotilla is leaving with anyone who wishes to join them, but they'll need help if they want to leave before the flux hits. Sounds like our priority should be to speak to Peak. There's Peak. That's pretty much it for the flotilla. Esh is there. As you enter the climbing briar, you immediately have to jump aside as Esh, lugging a massive crate across the cargo bay, pushes past you, grunting an apology as she does. Reminds me of when we met. Esh sniffs and doesn't look back. As you turn back to the bay, Peak pushes past too. Sorry, Sleeper, just a second. Peak rushes to catch up with Esh. Put that down, please, Esh. But she doesn't respond to... Oh, says his there, but we know that Esh is a they, them. But she doesn't respond to their urging. We can't leave, not yet. Peak puts a hand on her shoulder. Please, I'm the only one here who can. The crate drops, the sound of its impact echoing around the bay like thunder. Can do what, Peak? Her eyes are burning with anger. Save this place? Are you still that naive? We're running, Peak. We're running because this thing cannot be stopped. It couldn't be stopped at XPR, our home. Why would we stay to stop it here? Because we can, Ish. We can give these people a chance. Peak pleads with her. Like they gave the refugees a chance? Esh shakes her head. No, Peak, this is not on us. We barely made it out of XPR. I worked for years to escape, and now you want me to throw it all away? I left everything behind. My mother, my friends, to take you out of that place. She clenches her jaw. She turns and slams her hand onto the crate, breathing hard. We go. That's the end of it. Peak turns away. You feel unsure what to do, but you know now is not the time for outside arguments. This is between them. Peak crosses the bay back towards you. Oh, I'm sorry you had to see that, Sleeper. They sigh. Let's talk upstairs. Peak leads you to the entry ladder, taking you up out of the bay and into the habitation level of the ship. You follow them through the tight corridors, noticing the handwritten notes, the clutter, the repairs, the signs of a home. Here, sit. Peak gestures to the broad mess table with its curved couches, and you slide in on one side. Peak sits opposite. They brush their hair out of their eyes and take a deep breath. So, how did it go? What did they say? I've been waiting all cycle. Let's tell them about Kemp. Peak looks increasingly troubled as you tell them about the hardline counsellor Kemp's sudden appearance. Damn, and Helene's going to have problems of her own to deal with. Peak shakes their head. Looks like we won't be able to count on anything from Havenage. They pause. What stopped Kemp from arresting her? Tell them about the guns. Peak rolls their eyes. Of course. Those are the guns Ish managed to smuggle through the refugees. The one she didn't tell us about. Peak sighs. Another thing that's on us. What's on us? Esh is standing quietly in the doorway listening. You don't know how long she's been there for. Peak looks up with her with tired eyes. Sleeper found the weapons you smuggled from XPR. Esh freezes. She glances between you and Peak as if this might be some elaborate joke. The flotilla used them. Esh moves out of the doorway and enters the room. What happened? Peak interrupts. Be thankful that they didn't. They used them as a threat, that's all. Good. Esh folds her arms. You get the feeling that she knows Peak will not approve. Peak goes to speak and then decides not to take the bait. They glance at you. I'm sure you've heard enough of us arguing this cycle, Sleeper. Peak shoots a look at Esh. But our introduction of those weapons into the equation are just another reason why we cannot simply run away. Ash looks away but says nothing. She surely knows they cannot absolve themselves of responsibility here. So what is motivating her? You realise that she still might be trying to protect Peak, even from themselves. Suddenly a shrill beeping fills the room and Peak pulls out their slate to silence it. But as they do, they freeze, their finger hovering above the screen, the beeping continuing its insistent pulse. What? Peak doesn't seem to hear you. They blink with glazed eyes at the slate. Then they let out a long exhale and tap the screen. The beeping shuts off, leaving a ringing silence behind. Ash frowns at Peak. Planning to explain? 12 cycles. Peak looks vacantly up at you both. 12 cycles until the next flux event. They shake their head. I've been using the arrays on the Briar to look towards the centre of the system to approximate where the can channel should be. Just this moment they detected a signal from the inner system. Given the distance and pattern of previous flux events, we've got 12 cycles before it reaches the eye. The silence in the room is deafening. 12 cycles, that's it, before a second wave hits, and this place... Well, Peak interrupts your thoughts. We start now, that's the end of it. Peak stands up to face Ash. You want to take the Briar and run, Ash? That's on you, but I won't do it. They take a deep breath. I'll be here, Sleeper, for every cycle it takes, trying to find a solution. I'll need your help. Their eyes meet yours and you see a wild desperation flickering there. We will find something. The sooner we have a plan, the better. If it takes us 12 cycles to fix this thing, it'll be too late. Peak's eyes flash with determination. They reach for a slate and pass it to you. So we can keep in touch. You pocket the thin handheld terminal. And Ash, Peak starts, but she is gone, storming down the corridors of the ship on a path to who knows where. You know from experience that it is impossible to outrun your fears, but you get a sense that Ash will try anyway. Peak rubs their red eyes, staring after Ash. Maybe I'll take a moment before we start. They smile weakly, tears of exhaustion gathering in their eyes. See you back here soon, okay? And you slip from the room into the corridor, Peak's quiet sobs somehow carrying through the ship behind you as you leave. So this is our 12 cycles, right? Terminal flux. The next flux event is coming and it can't be stopped. The sooner your preparations are complete, the better the outcome. Let's have a quick look at the new drive that we've been given. So we've got, evacuate the eye, help the Pilgrim Seed, or protect the eye, help Peak. Peak needs a plan to protect the eye from the Shadow Protocol before the next event. So we've got limited time. So it's probably worth choosing our approach now, rather than trying to get them both going concurrently. I get the sense this is sort of our ending choice. You know, we're either going to flee with the refugees and the Pilgrim Seed, or we're going to try and stop the thing. So I'm inclined to try and stop it with Peak, I think, personally. Let's see, so the Pilgrim Seed is here. So yeah, so we've got to help them prep. They've got quite a big clock for that. Anything over here? No. Is there anything with Helen and Havenage? We should probably go and have a look. We'll have to go all the way. I wish there was now that it's so big, the eye, I wish there was sort of fast travel because the Havenage office is right at the other side. But there might be stuff in between, potentially. I'd like to get more energy as well before we go off. Keyless servers. Yeah, okay, well that's it. So this is the Havenage office. I don't suppose Helen's there. Doesn't look like it, does that? So I think what we do, let's have a bit of food. Actually, you know, let's go and cook it for ourselves. We got loads of this stuff, so let's go and cook some girolles. There we go. We're all full up. We've got so much money, we don't even know what to spend it on, but that's it's good to do it ourselves, I guess. Luckily we've got some high rolls to help Peak here. So we'll put all these dice into helping them. So this is the route we're going to take. Peak is tirelessly analysing the flux data and testing countermeasures on the Shadow Protocol. They need your help. There's an interface. We got +2 for this. I think we pretty much got +2 on everything at this point. Maybe bar a couple. So yeah, let's put all our 6s in. Only 3 should be needed here. I'll put in the 4 as well. There we go, that's done. Peak beckons you over the wide mess table where they've set up a terminal. The hours of bleary-eyed work have left you both drained, and Peak looks ready to collapse. You slide onto the curved couch beside them, something dark and malevolent filling their screen like an oil stain. The Shadow Protocol. Not quite. Peak's eyes seem to glitter in the screen light. This isn't what you think, Sleeper. Not by a long shot. You look again at the screen, leaning in close to the dark, curved shape to see its texture. You see whirls and currents like a river, a dark flow unlike the Shadow Protocol's dark tangle. You know exactly what this is. You've swum in this river, almost drowned in its shifting flow. It is the Gardener's Chorus, the dark cloud which blankets the Greenway's networks. The bioorganic morass of a malfunctioning protocol grown vast and strange. The Gardener. Peak glances at you. How do you... They pause. Have you met them? I have. Peak shakes the head. Incredible, and perhaps you won't be surprised by what I'm about to propose. Peak meets your eye. Everything I've tried to do to contain the Shadow Protocol has been a failure. It slips through any containment, absorbs any countermeasure. That, unfortunately, is an unavoidable fact. And yet the eye still spins. The Shadow Protocol is being slowed, partially constrained. It has spread across the station, as we have seen, but in reduced pockets, in fragments. So I started looking outside of our test cases, outside of these fragments we've been poking and prodding in our little lab. Peak smiles. And look what I found. Peak taps a key on their terminal, and you realise the screen is showing a recording of the data flow inside the eye's networks, sampled from hundreds of points around the Greenway. You watch as a subtle shift occurs at the edge of the flowing dark curve that blankets the Greenway. Something spreading like an ink stain, somehow darker than black, bleeds across. The Shadow Protocol. Now watch. Peak eagerly points at the screen. You see something strange, a fizzing at the edge of the shadow, a sparking, and then it's gone. And beneath, for a moment, a millisecond, you see into the networks of the Greenway. You're reminded of an image you'd forgotten, of pulling a plant from its pot and seeing a bone-white root ball where you expected to see dark soil. The white connections writhe like worms, and then it is gone, the dark flow closing up as quickly as it opens. It dissolved the shadow. Exactly. Peak nods. It protected itself. You think back to your meeting with the Gardener, to that sense of something old and whirled and inhuman to its core. Peak excitedly starts to explain. This is the only chance we have, the only countermeasure we've seen. In the moment it opened, I detected something. A centralised intelligence with a local ID Gardener. This protocol, this system, whatever it is, can protect its network from the Shadow Protocol. But if it stays in the Greenway, the eye will still fall. The station systems are too exposed, too spread across the hub, the shipyards and the spokes. Peak glances away. The only way to break it open, to spread the entity's network... Yes. How does that mean? The only way is to break it open, to spread the entity's network... Access it... What? Does it mean across it? Expand it somehow. It says access. I think that must be across, because that's the only way I can make the sentence make sense. You want to let the Gardener out? Peak stands up and walks away a little. They lean against the countertop, their head hanging so low that their long hair touches the work surface. You hear them breathing deeply. I don't know, Sleeper. They lift their head. I really don't know. Well, there's a chance. Maybe. They shake their head. You know as well as Peak that this is it. You know it because over the past cycles you've run every simulation, every possibility you could think of, and still come up with nothing. You've stared a hole into your screen and dreamt of that black shadow, creeping in at the edges of your vision. Peak recognises the look in your eyes, the potent cocktail of resignation and anger. Let's say we do this, Peak begins, eyeing you carefully. What do we need? They begin to answer their own question, thinking out loud. I suppose we'd need to do two things. Find a way to limit or control the Gardener's spread, and then reconnect the Greenway. Peak starts pacing, the ideas coming quickly now. Controlling the spread means preparing the station. Limit the Gardener's network to key systems. We don't want it taking everything, we just need it to protect the station's core functionality. Then we need to reconnect the Greenway, hook it back up to the main line of the network. Those systems we prepared, they should connect. The Gardener will spread along the paths we prepared. At least that's my theory, Pete grimaces. But if we don't prepare correctly, the Gardener might not spread, or it might spread to everything. Peak closes their eyes, and after that, things might get worse. Can't be worse than a total collapse. Oh, don't say it, Sleeper. Peak sits back at the terminal and brings up a map of the eye. Rotational control at the hub. Life support at the free spoke. Power routing at the Heavenage shipyards. They stab at the map with each one, marking them in red. Then there's the central core. As I understand, it's somewhere on the rim. I'd need to find it. They push their hair out of their face. We seed the Gardener in these places. Peak pauses. But how are we going to do that? Bait the Gardener's attention? Peak smiles. Of course. The Gardener needs plants to care for. That's what their protocol dictates. They must have been part of the farming management systems of the Eye back when Solheim built it. We seed Greenway plants into those systems, and the Gardener will seek them out, protect them. Peak stares at the map of the Eye. Oh, it's a wild idea, but it could work. But, they pause, we'll need a way into those systems. Havenage have most of them locked down for safety purposes. We can't just walk in. I know a guy. Peak raises an eyebrow. Someone in the Havenage systems team. You nod. After everything he dragged you through, you feel like Feng still owes you. Time to pay him a visit. Okay, well. Peak looks at you sideways. I guess we should pay him a visit. Lead the way. You both lead the ship, carried forward by the excitement of the plan, and an eagerness to not look at the details too closely. You push any lingering questions to the back of your mind. Time to head to Feng's Bay. And I think that's where we're going to leave it for today. So, yeah, we've got started on our plan to save the station, which is pretty cool. So what's kind of this counter now? It's just the countdown to the next Flux event, isn't it? So yeah, we'll head over to Feng's Bay, which is... it's right way down the other end of the Eye, isn't there? So I may even, when I pick it up next time, I may even go straight there and then start recording, because it's a lot of scrolling the mouse wheel, put it that way. But thanks very much for watching this. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, then please hit the thumbs up button on the video. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you're looking forward to the end of this series. It's been quite a big hiatus. When it said early 2023 for the final part of the DLC, I must admit I was thinking more January than basically April, but here we are. And yeah, if you're watching this and haven't already subscribed to the channel, it'd be fantastic if you would do so. That'd be amazing to have you on board. So thanks very much, and I hope to see you next time for more Citizen Sleeper. Bye for now.